Resident Evil HD Remaster has aged like a fine green herb. So I seen this article a few days back and I knew I wanted to do a video on it because Resident Evil Remake is probably one of my favorite games of all time. I gotta say, out of all the games that I've ever played, Resident Evil 4 is definitely my favorite, and then after that would be Ocarina of Time. And I think after that would probably be Resident Evil Remake. Just because I've put so many hours into this game, I've unlocked so many things with it and done so much with it that I love it so much. It's one of my favorite games. So seeing this article talking about it and kind of giving it some praise, I'm definitely for it. I even mentioned in one of my videos the other day, I can't remember which Resident Evil one it was. I think it was in regards to Resident Evil 0, how I personally believe that I think Resident Evil Remake is probably the best remake ever done in video games. I know that there's a lot of other remakes out there that some people can probably argue and make their own, assumption of what they believe that the best remake is. But personally, for me, it would be Resident Evil remake for sure. I think it really improved on what made the original game great. It was able to keep the spirit of the game itself being really creepy and something really scary to play. And I love it, man. I love it so much. So seeing that it's getting some praise here was definitely something that I was like, all right, I'm gonna do a video on this. So we'll go ahead and get into this article, and then I'll go ahead and get my thoughts as we go along. So the Resident Evil remake was released for Nintendo GameCube in 2022. Fans and critics alike saw it as one of the best looking games ever made, and rightfully so, with its photorealistic pre-rendered backgrounds that popped with sterling details even on classic CRT displays of the time. Realistic character models, haunting music, and stunning visuals combined to create one of the finest survival games ever made. And that's one of the crazy things too, is that it's true. I still have Resident Evil Remake on the GameCube, and even if you go back and play it, like the backgrounds, they look gorgeous still to this day, which is wild. And obviously when you get like the HD remaster, it's going to look even better. So the fact that they were able to actually like achieve that in 2002 is, in my opinion, I feel like that's amazing. I think that is so cool that they were able to do that. The characters look really good, like the models that they have for them, the cutscenes, it looks really nice. The music, same thing, was really haunting, was really good. One of my favorite pieces of music in that game is when you go down into the lab where the sharks are. It has like this doom 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 doom, and I don't know, I love it so much. It's one of those things, I just, anytime I get to that part, I always just try to make everything real quiet and just let the music play in the background just because I love it so much. And then the visuals combined, like I said, with the combined creating one of the finest survival games ever. Yeah, the visuals are just really great. The enemies are good. The atmosphere is scary. It's just I love it so much, man. I think it's a great game overall. It was simultaneously a relic of the past, representative of the future, and years ahead of its time. Capcom was right to be confident about this sprawling descent into terror because the remaster released in 2015 ensured that it hasn't aged a day, and it hasn't, man. It still looks so beautiful even to this day in 2025. Even when playing with its tank controls instead of the updated movement style, it still feels like you were navigating a maze of unknown terror, ready and waiting to jump around every corner. It was campy and creepy in the best possible ways, ripe with so many of the tropes and cliches the series would make routine. And that's one of the awesome things that, it is true that, Resident Evil, they've always had like a little bit of a campiness, and kind of, I've stated it before in my videos before on Resident Evil, that it kind of has like a B movie, like B horror film kind of feel to it usually. But there was something about Resident Evil Remake where it was able to take a lot of the goofiness and stuff that made the original game like what it was, and just kind of build on that, but have it, give it more of like a serious tone. There are some things in it that are like a little bit, like it says, cliche and stuff like that, but at the same time they were able to give it a seriousness that really lamented it as something that was better than the original, in my opinion. So, as you know, I've never, like I've stated before, I never beat the original. I played it a long time ago when I was a kid, but I never actually finished the whole thing. So I've seen lots of people stream it, watch them go through it and everything like that. And even though it has like that campiness and it does look a little bit goofy at times, especially with like the dialogue, the voice acting and everything like that, what they were able to do with the remake is just it raised the bar for it so well, in my opinion. I thought it was so great the way they were able to go that route. So, as the remaster celebrates its 10th anniversary, let's look back at one of the finest survival horror experiences this medium has ever seen. The Spencer Mansion is a character all its own. And I'm not gonna watch the trailer right here. We can go ahead and skip that. I don't want to make the video too long. So let's go ahead and continue on. I will forever admire the simplicity of Resident Evil. After a brief opening cutscene where we see the STARS unit ascend the Arcalane Mountains to investigate a series of grisly murders, only to be attacked by a pack of infected dogs and forced to take shelter wherever they can. Unfortunately, this place ends up being the Spencer Mansion, a sprawling estate belonging to a family with a deep, dark history that will gradually unveil itself in the hours to come. And that's one of the things too. That opening cutscene is just I love what they were able to do with it. If you watch the original Resident Evil, they have it where it's actual actors, like real people that are doing the scenes and everything like that. And in a sense, they was able to give kind of like a weird creepiness to it, especially when you're younger, like I was when I was really young. I think I was like 8, like 7 or 8 when I played it for the first time. So it's one of those things when you see it like that, it is really creepy. But being able to see what they did in the remake was so cool because it has a sense of creepiness to it. There is a little bit of like little sense of action as well, and then the way that it follows that cutscene up with you going into the mansion, I thought was really cool. So you can't go back outside where the wild animals are waiting to rip you apart, while this strange building is mysterious enough that splitting up and searching for clues is the best course of action. So, with only a few magazines of pistol ammunition in your inventory, you set forth on an adventure that will go down in history. It's worth noting that the game has you pick up to play as either Chris Redfield or Jill Valentine, two amazing characters in my opinion. Chris is stronger and capable of taking more damage, while Jill is in possession of a lockpick that allows her to enter new areas. The story diverges at certain points too, meaning a playthrough as both are essential to get the whole picture. And that is one of the interesting things that they kind of, I believe they kept from the original as well, is that there's so many different endings that you can go through when you play as Chris or Jill. There's somewhere you can save the other, there's somewhere you don't have them. Like it really depends on the routes that you take and the way that you play it. But there's lots of ways that you can end the game where it'll just be you as a survivor, you and some other teammates that you met along the way, and or you who like you started off with, which is really cool in my opinion. I thought it was nice the way that they were able to go. It is a little bit difficult at times just because when they do make a sequel like they did with this series, they do have to kind of make a definitive ending on what happened. So out of all those endings, there is a certain one that is actually true to what is followed up with the lore. But I don't know, just being able to do so many different aspects of it like that is really smart in my opinion, because usually the game you can beat it I think under like 3 hours if you want to. So being able to have so many different endings and everything like that really gives that replayability that'll make you want to go back and forth and then just kind of redo it again. So I think that's awesome. So, what being as a series of rooms in a superbly decorated mansion evolves into a lab burning deep underground, gardens and billiard rooms filled with giant spiders and snakes, and betrayal from fellow officers you thought would stand by you for life. Resident Evil is filled with so many iconic moments and images that it's hard to recall them all, but I adore how a remaster like this was able to capture them on modern hardware in ways which are still available to this day. The gameplay formula of exploration, combat, and puzzles seen here pioneered an entire genre, and in recent years, we've seen the likes of Crow Country, Signalis, Fear of Spotlight, and several others reinvent it again and again. And yeah, that's one of the crazy things is that like this game, like it stated, was from 2002. So that's over 23, is what, like about 23 years old at this point. So over 22 years. And the fact that they were able to make something like that on the GameCube, no less, still look beautiful to this day. I think that's an amazing feat that they were able to do. So, I mean, kudos to Capcom in that regard for sure. A survival horror gameplay formula for the ages. Determining exactly what makes this game so scary, despite its campy dialogue, has long been a point of fascination for me. The line delivery is abhorrent, but also a charming part of its timeless appeal that has carried across the series since its inception. The controls, which aim to restrict and disorientate, combined with the pre rendered backgrounds, help to establish a scene of constant paranoia. And that's one of the things. I mean, I don't really feel like the remake has such campy dialogue as the original, when you look at the original, there's some of the stuff when you go like to like the Jill sandwich and stuff like that, and like Wesker, stop right where you are, or however he says some whatever he says. I forgot what it was exactly, but it's just like it is really cheesy in the original. In the remake, there isn't so much of that, luckily. Like they like I said earlier, they kind of do play it straight, and you know what I mean. There is some things that are a little bit off, but there's nothing really in it that has it like, all right, that was really fucking cheesy. You know what I mean? Like I feel like they were able to kind of go in a good direction with that. And then as far as the you know the tank controls and everything like that, it is one of those things where, yeah, when you play that compared to like modern games now, I'm sure lots of people will kind of get turned off by it. But one of the things that made this game so great was the fact that with the tank controls and then the fixed camera angles, you weren't necessarily sure if there was something around the corner, or if you were going to move into the next room, or go around a corner and then there was going to be a zombie right there, and it ended up scaring you even more. So I feel like it really worked in the game's favor to really make this a horror game that would really have you scared of what you were going to do next and how you were going to go about things. Because there's nothing scarier than like when you go into a room and then all of a sudden you can hear like breathing from a zombie, and you're thinking to yourself, well, I have to turn this corner, but I don't know if the zombie's right there or if it's just there's the sound of them, kind of a thing. Or when you open up a door and you'll see kind of like either the shadow or kind of like the figure of a zombie, and you're thinking like, can they see me, or am I able to kind of move without them noticing at first? So it like I said, it really works in the game's favor. You are never safe, and even a single zombie will be enough to take you down for good. Fail to set them alight once defeated, and they'll come back with an even greater hunger. Level design that constantly evolves as you revisit it only solidifies this further, ensuring there are always new things to learn and discover amidst the horror. And that is one of the cool things, was the Crimson Head design that they were able to evolve with in the remake, because that wasn't in the original. So it is true, like if you kill a zombie, you shoot them, they go down, and you don't light them on fire, if you come back after like a certain amount of time, those zombies are going to come up and they're going to start chasing you, which is really cool. I would actually really like to see that concept done in like a movie or something like that, where it'll kind of have like those slow zombies that are just kind of slowly pacing. But once you actually like kill them, they go down, you leave them, you don't really do anything with them, and then eventually they come back and they're stronger, they start running after you, and they're more aggressive. I think that would be really cool if they were able to go that route. And then as far as the level designs changing, yeah, that is one of the things, that there are so many secrets and everything like that, that you might have to do some backtracking and everything like that, which I think is so cool, because then it'll give you like a different perspective of the mansion, and it'll add more to it, which I think is really dope. And then let's see with a note here. I will never forget stepping into the billiards room for the first time and seeing a giant tarantula looming above me as the camera angle shifts. Thanks for the lifelong phobia. And that is again one of the cool things about like the fixed camera angles and everything in this game, is that they do put it in a way where it does scare the hell out of you, man. Like you won't expect it sometimes, but once you play this game, like as me as many times as I have, going into that billiards room, it's I got a method pretty much. So it's like you get the shotgun, you just move forward a little bit, you aim, which causes the character to automatically turn around, point up, and just shoot, and that thing goes down. So it's like little things like that that once you play the game so many times, it's not so bad. But those first couple of times experiencing it, man, it will scare the hell out of you. It is something to be watching out for. And then, despite its fixed camera angles and limited resources, the moment to moment gameplay of fighting enemies and solving puzzles has remained ever since. Even as the series has begun to embrace high octane action more and more, you could argue the modern interpretation of this began with Resident Evil, as did so many of the characters and enemy designs we adore all these years later. They would be nothing without the remake that sought to reinvent what it meant to be a Resident Evil game. As the remaster turns 10, it's still the best way to play it. And I agree wholeheartedly. This is such a great game, the way that they were able to make this. It's like I said, in my opinion, gotta be the best remake of all time. I think that it really just solidified itself into the gaming world when the gaming world was still kind of young. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's about 23 years old at this point, and it's still so amazing. Yeah, just talking about this and hearing about this, I'm like, I think I'm probably gonna be playing that this weekend, kind of a thing. Just going back and having some fun with it, just because It is such a great game. It is something that is really fun to play, and I love it, man. I love what they were able to do, and I love the fact that it was kind of like the start of, Resident Evil kind of coming back. Cuz obviously they did have Resident Evil 2, 3, Code Veronica, but they eventually went back and kind of did the remake. I believe the remake came out before Code Veronica. I could be mistaken actually on that one. I think Code Veronica came out first and then it was the remake. But either way, it really was kind of what helped build Resident Evil. And then I feel like without Resident Evil remake, we probably wouldn't have gotten Resident Evil 4, which, you know what I mean, in the way that we did, which was my personal favorite Resident Evil game, especially because for anyone that doesn't know, the original Resident Evil 4, like the demo version, it was kind of a similar vein where you were in a mansion, you were kind of with fixed camera angles and everything like that. But it was more of a like a ghost feel to it where they had the ghosts that you were going up against instead of zombies. But it was like you were in a mansion, the fixed camera angles. It was really spooky. But they decided to go against that and then turn it more into like an action game with different types of zombies, more or less. But yeah, I feel like really what helped make Resident Evil 4 what it is now was the fact that we were able to get Resident Evil Remake in the way that it was. So I'm really happy to read this. I love seeing this. I love seeing Resident Evil Remake get some much needed love because of the fact that, it is such an old game and it coming on 10 years that it's been a remake of it. I think that's really cool that they were able to do this. So shout out to Jade King here. And yeah, man, I love this. I think this is really cool, and I'm glad we got to do this. So those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Is there any Resident Evil remake fans out there? If so, what did you guys think of the remake, and were you guys able to actually play the original and then play this and see, how much of an improvement it was able to make with the original game? So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section. If you guys could like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you guys have been watching this long, I really appreciate it. It means a lot. And yeah, until next time, Harmonic out. Peace.